What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Have More Than Money. Jared and I are back today with another special guest, Chase from Chase and JT. Chase, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
What's up, Chase? What's good? Why don't you tell us, just getting started, let the people know, what it is you do. Just give us a little bit of an intro about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Chase. I do Instagram. I also do YouTube. So I run some YouTube channels, run some Instagram pages. I've been at it for about like 6 years now in terms of, running these Instagram and YouTube channels. Instagram is my main business. So, go back a few years ago, I was predominantly doing YouTube and that was the predominant focus, while on the side, I was just casually building up some Instagram pages just because I wanted to, just diversify my income. And so, yeah, I was running these YouTube channels and then, some of the Instagram pages started to materialize and develop an audience. And then as that happened, I just started more and more pages and it grew. And it was really exponential. Unlike YouTube, the YouTube channels were more of like linear growth. And so the YouTube channels were sort of like this, just over time, just like growing, growing, growing. Whereas with Instagram, it was like a year or two of just seeing nothing. And then all of a sudden, just exponential growth occurred. And, now obviously I have a network of over 250 plus pages, predominantly like business, motivation, luxury pages, real estate pages. And so, yeah, that's the main business, still running the YouTube channels, but at this point, mainly focusing on these Instagram theme pages and just trying to keep on growing them just for the long haul.
Sweet. Yeah, I know you, like in the beginning, you said just Instagram. I like, just for the beginners, people who don't really know what Instagram theme pages are, right? You hear Instagram, you think, personal brands, we're always posting our faces and stuff. Just to clarify, that's not the type of Instagram pages you're referring to. Can you give a little bit more background on what exactly is an Instagram theme page?
Yeah, definitely. So an Instagram theme page is essentially an Instagram page where the predominant focal point of the page is not the person that's actually, producing the content, but the content itself. And so it could be anything really. It could be a travel page. It could be a sports page. It could be a business page. There's literally hundreds, if not thousands of different categories out there in which you could build a theme page revolving around. And so when I started off with a quotes page at first. I had like a Joe Rogan fan page. I had like a bunch of different fan pages that I was building. And like I said, it took about a year before I saw anything materialize in terms of like real growth. And so, yeah, you could build a page about anything. And then as the pages obviously develop an audience, you could start making money through those audiences. So travel, cars, sports, business, you could make your own content. You could repurpose other people's content and give them credit. You could do a combination of both. But that's essentially what it is, just an Instagram page where the content is not about, it's about the theme itself.
Yeah. So, I do want to touch on something you said earlier. When you said, when you first started with the pages and it was like a slow growth and then it became exponential, what do you think caused the exponential growth? What made it go from, growing slowly to exponential? And, what do you think was the big change that caused that?
Yeah, so I don't think looking back in hindsight that it had to take that long. I think I was obviously, I know I was a novice and I didn't have the experience and whatnot. And so it was a lot of trial and error. And so with that being said, when I did start, a lot of the content I was posting was subpar content. I wasn't really using the proper marketing techniques, obviously hashtags. At the time, there was no reel. So the predominant way to grow was just through viral videos, through posts. And so, the content I was posting was subpar at first. I wasn't posting every day, which for most niches, you really have to post every day. Otherwise, it's just, if you're posting like once or twice a week, that's just not conducive of a page that's going to be successful. And so I wasn't really doing everything, properly per se. And so that really stifled things. And then obviously, as I got the hang of what works, what doesn't, then things started to exponentially pick up. I would say it was a combination of just improving the content and finding what worked and what, stuck with the audiences. And then also just, really replicating what was working on the larger pages. So in hindsight, it probably should have only taken me like 4 or 5, maybe 6 to 7 months to really get things to pick up. But obviously, regardless, it's not a big deal because things ended up panning out, either way.
Yeah. Great.
Gotcha. And how many followers, out of curiosity, do you have amongst your current Instagram theme pages?
Right now, about 60 million, not most of which, about a third of which are in the business, luxury, and real estate niche. So what works really well is because we sell promos on these pages. People will hit us up and they'll basically, I have a manager who manages all the pages. So they'll hit up, any of the pages through DMs, just being like, hey, I want to, have my profile featured on your page, or I want my business featured on your page to your audience. And so, most of the time they'll be messaging the business pages just because those are the largest. and we'll upsell them. So they'll buy a promo from one page. We'll be like, hey, we also have another, 50 to 60 pages that are in the same niche. Do you want to buy promos from those pages too? And so, there's a lot of guys that pay me, 15, 20 grand a month, 10 grand a month, 5 grand a month, just varies person to person. And, they keep coming back because obviously they're getting, good results from the promos because the audiences are all organic. And it's a symbiotic relationship. They get the exposure from the pages. Obviously, I get the money. My manager gets a piece of the money, and then we have a bunch of people that work under that get paid from the pages too. So that's essentially the business model. You can make money through other avenues as well. Selling a product or service that fits the theme of the page. You could do affiliate marketing. You could obviously sell the promos. So at the end of the day, once you have an audience, you have the leverage, and that leverage, equates to a lot of dollars as that leverage does become more and more substantially, just more and more substantial and more material in terms of follower count.
It's crazy, right? Because it's not even just leverage, it's power. You're really owning your own media conglomerate corporation. Now, obviously that's all great, but for someone who's just getting started that knows nothing about the space, how do you go from zero, literally nothing, to 100,000, your first 100,000 followers, and then ultimately, turning it into a $10,000 a month, machine or page or whatever you want to call it. So, if I was someone, let's just say that had some successful businesses, or I had some money coming in, or even if I was broke, right? How do I go from zero to 100,000 followers, and then of course, $0 to $10,000 per month?
Yeah. So if you're just starting an Instagram page right now, the barrier to entry definitely has increased, but at the same time, the pool of viewers that are in circulation on the platform has increased. So there's obviously a lot higher upside. So that shouldn't be a deterrent. I, along with a lot of clients that I've worked with, have started new pages in the last 6, 8, 10, 12 months. And a lot of those pages are starting to materialize now as we speak. And, I have a health page I started 9, 10 months ago that's, just hit over 120K followers. So, there's still more than, there's still more opportunity to actually get into it. I wouldn't say that the opportunity has sailed. So there's still opportunity to actually get involved with the business. If you're just starting now, I would say, picking one or two niches to basically start a page around and just starting to post really good content, carousels, posts, reels, long form captions. At the end of the day, with all of these platforms, the core fundamental techniques of growing are pretty relative because the platforms all have the goal of just keeping the viewer on the platform for as long as possible. That way they could serve the viewer as many ads as possible and make the most money. So, if you're starting a page, you want to keep that in mind, long form captions, great quality posts, carousels, reels, videos. The content is the incumbent factor when it comes to growing. So just having really good quality content, posting every day, commenting on other posts is a great way to grow when you first start. Not spammy comments, but just insightful comments that are, relative to the post you're commenting on and also congruent with the theme of your page. That's a good way to build up your first few thousand followers. And once you have that, preliminary audience of a few thousand followers, at that point, you could start to grow organically. So that should really be the first goal for anyone getting into it, is to get that first 1 to 3K. And then once you have that first 1 to 3K, you could really just catalyze the growth from there organically.
That's dope. Yeah, I know you just mentioned that the barrier to entry increased a little bit, right? And I know for a lot of beginner entrepreneurs, you're that's a little scary, but I mean, me and Jared, obviously in the e-commerce space, we consider barrier to entry at this point a good thing. You don't want any noob to just be able to come in and be able to just take off and saturate the space. So like I said, I know barrier to entry can be a scary thing, but it seems like in this instance, it can also be a positive for the business model.
Yeah, no, definitely. At the end of the day, if a business is easy to penetrate, it's typically not a good business. You're building a castle out of sand, and that's a lot of businesses nowadays that people are getting into, is these quick money grabs where it's if anyone could get into it, that's very unlikely to materialize to anything substantial that you could, use to build wealth. It's pretty much, you never hear of these businesses that end up selling for a substantial amount of money, having just only being in business for 1 or 2 or 3 years. They're businesses that have been around for 5, 6, 10 plus years. And so, yeah, I mean, I prefer the barrier to entry, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because I started really understanding the power of theme pages when I heard that page Daquan sold to Warner Brothers for $85 million, which is just insane. You hear an Instagram page sold for that amount. So, I can only imagine how much your 250 pages are worth at this point. It's probably, millions of dollars. But, for someone, let's just say, who's starting out, right? Obviously obviously it's gonna take some time to monetize. And that was a problem I've had with businesses in the past. So I guess my question would be, how would you counter if someone was to say, oh, what would be the motivation to invest in it when, I don't even know how long it's going to take to be monetizable? Like what would you recommend in terms of like a time frame, or like, how much money do you think invested? Like if I was to get started, how much money do you think I would need to be able to start building my own theme page?
Yeah, I mean, you said how much money or how much time you said?
I guess both.
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of time, I would say 4 to 8 months is a good goal to set before you see anything in terms of like monetary gain. As for growth as well, I would say 4 to 8 months for both growth and monetization. As for like the time you would devote into a page, probably around an hour a day per page. So if you start off with 1 or 2 pages, the time you put into it is immaterial in comparison to other businesses. But obviously, as you start more pages, things become more and more time intrusive. That's why you have to, set up systems and delegate just like any other business. And reverting back to what you were saying before, there's a good quote. I think it's something along the lines of like, you shouldn't let the time it's going to take to actually like reach a goal deter you from doing something. Because at the end of the day, the time's going to pass anyway. So, obviously at the same time, you don't want to like waste a lot of time. But if you live your life under the notion where, oh, I don't know if it's going to work out, I don't know if I want to like take that risk, then, nothing will ever materialize substantially in your life. So, yeah, for me personally, it's like I obviously didn't know when I started Instagram what it was going to turn into. But the power of compound interest is real. 5 to 6 years of posting pretty much every single day, if not every day, give or take, aside from that first year, things are going to transpire. I mean, unless you're just completely just not the most savvy person whatsoever. And even then, I mean, if you're doing something every day for years on end, something's got to come from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tell people the same shit all the time, right? Like the time is going to pass regardless. You might as well just put the work in and do what you need to do to build up an asset. And, obviously me and Jared, we understand the power of theme pages firsthand. I mean, at this point, we've definitely invested over 50 grand getting shout outs on these other pages, motivational entrepreneurship. Can you speak a little bit on how you would monetize a page that's not motivation or entrepreneur? I know you mentioned like sports pages. What kind of people would pay for shout outs on those pages?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, there's some pages on Instagram. There's a page, I think it's called like NFL Memes IG, something along those lines. It's one of the bigger NFL pages. They are definitely making like well over $500,000 a year just selling promos. They charge like $1,500 a promo for 24 hours, and they're cranking them out like 1-2 times a day. And basically that page, they'll do promos for like sports gambling websites. They'll do promos for, FanDuel, just various sites. I don't follow every single promo they do, but typically sports companies will promote on a page like that. They have 1.4 million followers, I believe. And so, yeah, I mean, no matter what the page is, as long as the predominant audience that's being derived on that page is like United States, European, Australian, like, countries like that, like not third world countries, no advertisers want to be promoting their stuff on pages that have a bunch of like third world country followers, just because it's a lot harder to sell to those people. And so as long as the page does have a predominant, US older demographic in those other countries I referenced, you're going to be able to make some money. So, I mean, to give an example, like I have like a Rocky Balboa fan page, and that page has made like there was a week where it made 30 or not 30, it was like 15 grand in 1 week. Because we sold 2 programs. So that wasn't off promos. That was like selling like programs where we teach. But yeah, I mean, that's another thing with the pages is you could use them to sell services. So on my pages, we teach people how to make money on Instagram because, I've cleared personally, a substantial amount of money on Instagram, and I built up this network. And so on these pages, we'll be posting, my team will post stories of like my lifestyle and of stuff every day. And then people will see that and they'll be interested to learn more. So then we'll sell people, here's how you could also get involved and do Instagram. And so on top of the promos, the pages also make money through that. And so if you have a page and you have an audience, no matter what the page is about, you could sell a fraction of that audience some type of digital product or service, or an actual tangible product if you wanted to as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say that even if you had like an ecom, or let's say you had an ecom brand where you were selling a glow in the dark football, right? You had a sports page. If you have a page of 100, 200,000 followers, one story shout, one post, one feed post, like that would 100% bring in some sales.
No, 100%. A lot of people that own these pages don't really realize the value of the pages they hold because they just think about the promo money. And so they leave a lot of money on the table because they don't really find other ways to monetize the pages. And so, for instance, a page that I have, Get Your Money Right, it's like a business/investor page. We'll post like investing, self-educational content. And that page has like, 400 or 500K followers. And I've easily made over $500,000 off that page, over $1 per follower. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of people would think like, these girls that have 5 million followers that are posting like, provocative content are making a ton of money, which some of them are. But there's also pages that have a tenth or even like a 50th of the followers that make a lot more. It's not necessarily about the amount of followers, it's the quality of the followers. And so for me, I really like to stick with like the business investing motivation niche, because I know that those followers typically are more likely going to have more disposable income to invest. And so from a selling standpoint, it makes it a lot easier to sell to those people. It's just a lot less friction.
Yeah, it's crazy because when you own these pages, you really have so much power to really sell anything, whether it's a course, a physical product. I guess the question I would have in regards to promos is like, at what point does your page become like this big hot spot for selling promos? Like, is there like some sort of switch you flip? Is it like some sort of follower amount? Like, obviously if you're growing a page from zero and you're trying to make some money, like at what point does it just start making money off promos and shout outs? Like, how do you flip that switch?
Yeah, I mean, I would say depending on the page, it's all contingent upon the niche. But generally, you're not going to be able to see anything material come in before 10,000 followers, at least for like the business motivation luxury niche, real estate niche. But at the same time, you could do, you can make money selling your own products when you have 1,000 followers. So for the promos, typically between 10,000 to 100,000 followers before you're going to make any money. And brands will reach you by finding you from the explore page, through the index. A lot of people don't know about the Instagram index, but whenever you follow a page, there'll be like recommended pages under that page. That's the index. And that's like one of the most pertinent places for growth on Instagram. A lot of people just think you got to grow through the explore. But I personally believe that a lot of the bigger pages like get a lot of their growth through the index, not through the explore. So, that's key, is a lot of these brands will find people from the explore page, from the index, from word of mouth, whatever the case may be. They'll find these pages and they'll reach out to them and, try to get promoted on those pages, because, it could be more cost effective than running conventional ads in a lot of cases.
For sure.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like most entrepreneurs, you went through the trial and error of what works, what doesn't. I know you alluded to it earlier. Now you're really just doubling down. And I mean, anybody who kind of joins you on this Instagram theme page journey, they don't have to go through all the pitfalls and all the trial and error that you went through, because I mean, you did it for them.
No, exactly. So yeah, I mean, there's a good quote. And so like for me personally, I always like to use my money instead of my time. Obviously, if that's the option, like that's always the more viable option, because you could always, replenish your money. And so with that being said, like I'll like to learn from others' mistakes just by paying mentors or paying other people. I've paid Graham Stephan. I've paid multiple guys for mentorships and whatnot in the past. Graham Stephan, I think I Venmoed him, was like $250 for like a 30-minute one-on-one call. This was like 3 years ago. I told Jared about this. Other guys too, John Williams, just like I would personally rather use my money than time. And, there's a famous quote. It's like trials costly, error is deadly. And so in business, you don't want to go through that trial and error. Obviously, you hear a lot of people that say they went through it. But a lot of the times it's survivorship bias, and you're just hearing about the people that survived, not the thousands, if not millions of people that didn't survive. And so, yeah, me and my team, we work with clients. We do automation services where we build pages for clients. We do mentorship where we teach the business. And so, right now we're getting a ton of clients joining in, and we're basically helping them start their own pages. And it's been going great so far. So honestly, looking to double down on that automation. We basically build the page for the client. Sourcing the content, posting the content, leveraging my network to promote the client's page. And then we also do mentorship, which is where, we essentially handhold the client for 1 year, working with them and teaching them the ins and outs of the business. That way they could essentially expedite both the growth and the monetization process. So, yeah, I mean, that's also a huge part of the business too, is, working with clients through mentoring and automation with these theme pages and teaching people how they could get involved as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure to, put your Instagram @name in the caption, in the description of the video. If you want to say it now, or we'll definitely mention to say it at the end of this video as well. But one question I had to ask you is, obviously you mentioned this just now, the what was it? The bias of success, or survivorship bias. Yeah. Obviously becoming an entrepreneur in general, it's a hard, lonely road. I guess the question I would have is, one, let's take it way back. When did you like know that you were going to become an entrepreneur, not go the conventional route of 9 to 5? And I guess at what point, did you realize that you were going to be successful and actually, take this to the levels you took? Like, were you always like this, or was there something that changed you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was necessarily like a shifting moment or like anything like that. I guess for me personally, it's like I've always aspired to just, build true wealth. And so for me, I've never really cared about, materialistic items or, driving a supercar, any of like that. For me, it's like I always just wanted, have like a big stock portfolio paying dividends and just have time freedom and location freedom. And that's honestly, I believe, a very noble goal. Like a lot of people want to make money for the wrong reasons. Everyone has their own reasons, but I think the main reason why most people aspire to build wealth is just so they could buy back their time and have location freedom. For me, I've always seen, just work as a way to make money just to pour into investments. And so for me, I want to just keep cash flowing as much as possible. Hopefully I will have an exit one day that's substantial, but for me, I don't really, I don't count that as like my only thing. A lot of people that like I'll meet, like they'll just have their business and they don't really take any chips off the table and invest into like, an index fund or real estate. They'll just keep reinvesting in their business, which is great in some instances. But once again, reverting back to that survivorship bias, most people don't have tangibility in their business and their business will never sell. And so, although I know for certain my business is tangible and could sell, I just always like to be conservative when it comes to stuff like that. So I would rather personally, invest every single month into index funds, into real estate, et cetera. That way I know for certain I'm doing the guaranteed way of building wealth. It might not be as glamorized, but it's definitive. And I'll take that for sure.
I was going to say people don't, I feel like a lot of people don't invest in index funds, dividend paying stocks because it's not sexy, but a lot of times building generational wealth, just overall, the process itself isn't sexy. People will see the top of the mountain when you get there, but they don't see really the climb and everything that went on in between.
No, for sure. And a funny story, and I don't say this to brag by any means, but like a funny story is like, obviously Jared just moved down to Miami and he came to my place in Miami. I got like a penthouse recently and I just got to want to have like a year of just like having fun and whatnot, going out, just experiencing that life. Cause I never did like prior. And so what's funny is they had a very stringent application process in the building that I moved to. And I remember, me and one of my friends, we went to the building, we went to the parking garage, like we saw the building, the cars, and they were crazy, like Cullinans, Bentleys, Ferraris, just insane, like insane cars. Like you couldn't get nicer than that. And so I was thinking like, damn, like I'm probably a small fish here. And then I remember when I did the Zoom meeting with like the head of the board for the building, like he basically told me, because I had to submit my tax returns and I submitted my 2020 tax return, which was about like, I think like $3.3 million in net income. And so he was like, bro, like you are like the second highest earner in this building. He said like second, discluding me. He's like me and then one other person. And these are condominiums that are like anywhere from like 600 to 700 G's all the way up to the penthouse. I think it's like 10 million. And so I was just like, what the hell? Like, that's just insane in my eyes. Obviously, like there's only one unit in there that's 10 million. So that person obviously is making way more. But these people that are driving these crazy cars, living in $2 million condos, like a lot of people will overextend themselves. And for me personally, if I'm making like 2-3 million a year that I'm paying taxes on, like I'll live as if I'm making like 200-300K a year, because that delta between the income and your spending is essentially what's going to set you free. And obviously a lot of people get caught on that hedonic treadmill where they just want to like impress people. For me, I just don't give a shit. Like I really don't care. As long as I know I'm wealthy at the end of the day, that's all I really care about. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing at the end of the day because it's obviously working, and I don't really see, why not just double down on what's, currently doing.
Yeah, no, I think you said a lot of amazing value there. And I love that idea, of not getting a Lambo until you could afford 5 of them, and speaking of true wealth, obviously we have to point out the Warren Buffett poster behind you. There's no doubt where you learned it from. I do want to note that actually when Mikey visited Miami, we both actually went to the penthouse, and yeah, that place was insane. It was definitely off the hook. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that's really all the questions that I think we had. Are there any questions that you maybe want to ask us before we wrap this up?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess you guys, just because like a lot of people that, follow my Instagram or follow my Instagram pages are probably gonna be wondering who you guys are, just because, like this video will probably be seen by a good amount of people for my page. So if you guys want to give like a brief, introduction, or I should say outro, on who you guys are.
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, as Mike introduced us, the name of our brand is More Than Money. We started it to really help people understand, the idea that the only way you're going to ever focus on the things that are worth more than money is to first have money, right? So, collectively, we built six different e-commerce brands that did, a little bit over $20 million in total sales. Since then, we've helped like 700 or 800 people start their first business. I think we have at this point well over 100, if not 200 students that we've helped do their first sale. And I think, what is it, Mike? Over 10 students that we helped do over $1 million in sales. So
Yep.
yeah, we've definitely done some cool things. And yeah, that's pretty much what got us to where we are today. Obviously, we've been working on Instagram and YouTube's for a while. That's how we met you. We've known you now for a few years, and obviously the value just never stops.
Yeah, I'm thinking Instagram theme pages might need to be the next investment for us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. At the end of the day, it's like with those brands, you can honestly leverage these theme pages to catalyze, the growth and the traffic on your pages. Because when you're, basically hostage to these platforms and their ever changing, ad prices and policies and all that stuff, it's very, very difficult. And obviously, not to say it's impossible, but especially with the recent Apple iOS changes, I think that transpired over the last year, that was extremely detrimental to a lot of these, D2C businesses. With their just privacy policy change, makes it a lot harder for these advertisers to actually find the appropriate audiences and whatnot. And so for me, it's like, I don't want to be hostage to stuff like that. I want to own the audiences myself. That way I could obviously, just basically control, I have control at that point. So for you guys, I would recommend the same thing. Obviously, just building a few pages, buying a few pages, whatever the case may be. That way you could have your own network. And then boom, like whenever you launch a new brand, launch a new product, whatever, you can go straight to the consumer, do testing at a much more efficient rate. And yeah, I mean, it'll just give you guys more leverage as well with the brands.
That's dope, man. Appreciate the advice. I appreciate you joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure. Jared, any closing thoughts?
No, you definitely appreciate your time. I mean, I feel like I learned a lot. I know, Mike, as you said, we're definitely going to be considering investing in one. I already have some niche ideas that are coming to mind that I think are, low key, so I'm not going to share them. But yeah, real quick, Chase, why don't you just, plug yourself in, tell people where they can find you. Obviously, if they're interested, we'll leave your ad name in the description. But yeah, why don't you just tell the people?
Yeah, so you can go to my Instagram, Chase and JT. That's the Instagram page, just at Chase and JT. JT, he handles the back end with the clients and everything like that, just customer support, etc., overseeing things. And so just at Chase and JT, obviously, the over 250 plus Instagram pages, probably about a third of them are uploading my stories every day. So, you could see some of the pages yourself, Get Your Money Right, The Gentleman's Rule Book, Millionaire.motivator, tons of these pages. You go on Instagram. I mean, if you see my stories going up on a page every single day, that's my page. And then along with that, there's a ton of pages that aren't posting my stories every day that just are also my pages as well. So, yeah, I mean, just that, I would say that's the best place to find me. You can send me a message on Instagram if you have, just any questions or anything like that. And I would say that'd be the best form of contact.
Yeah, and I love how you are, willing to even share the pages, so it's like people could really see that, you are practicing what you preach. So, again, thanks again for joining us, Chase. I had a great time. I definitely feel like I learned a lot. And yeah.
No doubt. Much love, brother. Thank you.
Hey, appreciate you guys. We'll keep in touch, guys.
For sure.